And we're going to do another book version of Let's Make a Meal. So instead of a chopped version, Will is out and about today, so I don't know when he's getting home. So instead, I'm going to make a cake. So this is Superpowered's Year 1, and it is by Drew Hayes. That dark blue on blue is kind of hard to see, but that is the author. He's actually local to the DFW area, which is pretty cool. This is definitely one of my favorite series. Yes, it's a series. It's Year 1. It's about superheroes learning how to be superheroes in college. Super fun. In the series, there's a character and there's a birthday party, and they make a chocolate fudge cake for this character's birthday. So I decided we're going to make a chocolate fudge cake. They also make rack of lamb, scallops, and tiramisu. And while originally all 4 of these were on the docket, I got work to do, so we're just doing one of these, which is a chocolate fudge cake. Now, part of the fun thing with chocolate fudge cake that I found out, because I was trying to think of what on earth is a chocolate fudge cake, as you look into this, what they do is they melt the butter and the sugar and all of that together so you get a much more dense sort of cake. So while it is still a cake, it can kind of be almost brownie-esque, and as you might have noticed, it is actually going to involve sour cream. So this version I've got involves sour cream. There's probably other versions that involve buttermilk, because those are often alternatives for each other in recipes. Now, what's interesting about this is as I'm looking at the recipe for this, I'm realizing that it looks a lot like the Texas sheet cake recipe that my mother has, that I have never successfully done. I've tried to make Texas sheet cake, I don't know how many times, and it's failed every single time. And I'm super curious as to if the reason why Drew Hayes does a fudge cake is because probably the rest of the country may or may not be familiar with Texas sheet cake, but Drew Hayes grew up in Texas, so he probably is familiar with Texas sheet cake. I don't know. We'll find out. And I'm really hoping that this actually works, because for whatever bizarre reason, I ruined every Texas sheet cake I've ever made. But again, this is a fudge cake. This is a chocolate fudge cake, not a sheet cake. Hoping this actually works. So the recipe I have calls for 3/4 cups butter and 1 cup of water. This does look kind of like a lot of water to me, but I do also have to admit that this does look like the beginning of all of my fondest childhood memories of Texas sheet cake. So I'm hoping it's delicious, and I'm hoping I don't mess this up. So when you do this, you take the hot water and butter and you put it into all of the dry goods, and then you add the sour cream and eggs last, which means this stuff you can totally eat. I mean, it's got raw flour in it, but the raw eggs are over there. So, haha, I can eat this. Oh yes, yes I can. And yes I did, and it's delicious, and I recommend it. And if Will didn't already know I was making a cake, we could just stop here and pretend that I did not make a cake, but that would be lying, and I won't lie. Also, Riker's hoping I dropped something good, but he's just licking sugar. Or the floor, because maybe the floor tastes good because of other things we've dropped. That is definitely the super shiny batter of a Texas sheet cake, going into not the 2 9-inch round cake pans that the recipe calls for. So, you know, it looks like cake, and it's not burned, and it's not raw. This is looking good. So for the record, I overbaked this because I was worried, so I added some minutes, and that was a mistake. It'll still taste good, and the frosting will help, but I overbaked it. Making the cake flat so you can frost it, that's a thing, right? My frosting recipe said that it was a fudge frosting. So now just to assemble. It's a cake! So, you know how in the Great British Baking Show when they're like, oh, it's so hot, buttercream's a bad idea. Yeah, this is a butter-based frosting, and it's kind of like melting and oozing everywhere. But it is a 2-layer cake. I'll slice into it later. Also, yes, there's the extra pieces I cut off to try to make things straight that did not go great. And the bowl of extra frosting. I'm maybe gonna do something with that. Also, it should be known that if anyone's not impressed with this job, you guys should realize that in my family, we make birthday pie, not birthday cake. So, no baked cheesecake is what's normal in our family. So I'm really pleased that this looks like a cake. Also, Riker's very sad that it's made out of chocolate, just FYI. It has layers and a lot of frosting. I overbaked the cake, it is true.
My word, I am Alice Adair, and I am so not used to having friends bake dinners and desserts for me, because I am so not used to having friends. Thank you so much, Vince. I shall fall in love with that guy.
I love you so much.
Yay.
I really love how the Californian debutante turned into a Southern belle.
So I figured it out from Dead Like Me. The character Daisy Adair got into my head when I was like Alice Adair. So I could not do other than the Daisy Adair voice.
That is fantastic.
That is how my brain works, I guess. Steph made cake. There's delicious frosting. And it's chocolate cake.
It is, in fact, chocolate cake. I'm still somewhat cursed. I will continue working on this idea of fudge cake and Texas sheet cake. And yeah, I overbaked it. So maybe next time. Bye.
Bye.
Last week, there were onions and shallots. This week is chocolate. What's up with that? Ugh.